So who's this one? Gaz Tykes.
Well, yeah, whatever.
I can't remember how it's that. Welcome back to another podcast. Thanks for checking this one out. This week we are talking to can we say number one fan?
I don't know.
I think it's cool to say he's up there with one of our top supporters. It's
I think that's a nicer way of saying it.
Yeah, Gaz Tykes. He's been following us since day one, hasn't he? And he's been interacting with us. He's reached out to us.
We spoke to him loads of times via chats and comments and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like I know him quite well, but
yeah. Well, the original plan was to actually get him on the podcast for when we launch. That was going to be like the number one.
Oh, was it?
I think
first podcast.
Our first podcast after we launched. But obviously things have been delayed with the launch of the website, but it is coming now. We're closer than ever. But anyway, less about that. We spoke to Gaz. It was really nice to talk to him. He's been pushing his photography over the last couple of years. It's great to see his journey, I guess.
I was going to say, let's not reduce him to our number one fan. He's a brilliant photographer. He does like portraits and all these different types of photography, like street and loads of different stuff. He's very, very good at what he does, and just a thoroughly nice guy as well. So
really humble, really passionate about his photography. And it's just great to have a chat with him, wasn't it? I can't even really remember what we spoke about to him, to be honest. But
we talked about smart homes, connecting all your lights and shit to your phone or whatever it was, and
we spoke about his portrait projects that he's been doing.
Oh yeah, photography.
Yeah,
spoke about that
side of things.
Yeah, stuff like that. It was a very free-form, long-winded. I was going to say not long-winded, long and winding, meandering chat about photography and whatever else. So,
but it's always a pleasure to speak to all photographers from all different backgrounds. So if you want to be on our podcast, put a message down in the comments. Let us know. But yeah, enjoy this one. Drum roll, please.
Say that again.
What, me?
Yeah.
No, because that'll be the intro.
Yeah.
I said we like it raw. We like it raw and dirty. Let's keep it raw and dirty. We don't want to be too clean.
That's why you've invited me along.
Yeah.
We've wanted you on for a long time.
Like,
frustratingly, we just thought front would be out sooner than it was.
Oh yeah.
And
but genuinely,
non-stop set. Yeah. Genuinely can't say thank you enough for the support.
But
if you are listening to this. If you are listening to this, Gaz has been with us since day one. Day one.
But I said this to you in the message, Gaz, like the thing that me and Jamie say the most often is when are we getting Gaz on the podcast? We need to just do it. We need to just ask him. Why are we not asked him? And
we were always waiting for we were going to ask you after the launch. You were going to be number one. Then we were going to we've had ideas that have come and gone. You know, we'll tell you a little bit about it after the podcast. But honestly, we've always said, you know, when we're on Instagram or, you know, doing videos, we've always said we want to talk to all photographers at all levels. It's not about how many likes, how many followers you have. Like, if you're professional, non-professional, film, analog, digital, whatever do you know what I mean? It really doesn't matter. We just want to have a platform where we can help all photographers connect. That's really what it's about, right? As cheesy as it sounds, everyone says it, but not everyone does it, right? So we're kind of putting, you know, money where the mouth is, so to speak. We're trying to talk to everyone we can. But we you haven't gone unnoticed, mate. We have seen all your comments. We've seen all the support you've given. So we appreciate it, mate. We appreciate it. So yeah. So, why not now? Fuck it. Why not now?
Yeah, well, we get on with it, you know,
I mean, we probably won't release this for 12 months now, but...
That's absolutely fine. I'll hopefully become professional by then, and people will actually know my name, and it'll bring some viewers to you. Outside of photography, I was a massive smart home nerd, and I've been on a few smart home YouTube videos and stuff like that. And one of the guys who I supported for a long time, he actually invited me to go along to his wedding.
Yeah.
Very sweet of him. But when I was there, they were like, "So how do you know Paul?" I sounded like a fucking competition winner.
Yeah.
I was like, "I'm Paul's friend from YouTube." And I was like, Make a Wish Foundation.
Oh, hang on.
So you're really into smart home? Like, what do you mean? Like,
hang on. Sorry.
Yeah.
My missus wants to say hello to you because she's noticed that you're a fan.
Hello.
All right.
We've only just jumped on this about 2 minutes ago.
Oh, I said to Jamie earlier, I want to meet Front's biggest fan.
Oh, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to meet the whole Front family.
There you go.
Just heard the dog barking as well. So,
Yeah.
Luke, where are your 3 kids, Luke? Bring them on.
All in bed at the
Bed,
moment.
hopefully.
This is the issue that I always have, like rushing
Here's-
to get them into
Here's
bed.
Thrasher. There you go, mate. Say hello.
Oh.
Oh,
Hello.
little loud now.
See
Anyway,
ya.
I'll let you carry on. But nice
Fuck
to
off.
meet
Feel
you.
privileged.
Back off.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. Why? I mean, I know what a smart home is, I guess, but why are you really into smart homes?
Because I'm a tight-fisted Yorkshire git. That's why. That's when it started. So,
Hang on, can you just explain what a smart home? A for me and B for anyone who's listening who's as stupid as me. What is a smart home?
So a smart home is basically anything that you can, pretty much anything that you can trigger or automate is the smart home. So one of the things that I've done is I've got most of the lights in the house on sensors.
So you just walk around going like that now?
No, I don't even need to clap. I'm that big. As soon as I walk into a room, the sensors recognise me there and turn the lights on. But more importantly, as a tight-fisted git, they turn the lights back off. And Luke will tell you this, that if you've got kids who are old enough to actually switch the lights on, they're not so good at switching them back off. So that's initially why I did it. So the room that I'm in now, which I'm going to call the office, but actually is just a converted dining room. This was where the kids, when they were younger, used to come in and actually come and do some homework and what have you, and then bugger off and leave the light on. And it just used to annoy the crap out of me. So I'd put a motion sensor on the desk, so that once they'd left the room, after 2 minutes, the bulbs would turn off, and actually I was saving some electricity.
So you're saying we've all been there, right? Yeah, I'm going to give an example because we've all been there. But I know for a fact that if we start seeing you shaking your head, it's just because you want the sensor to stay on.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
Right, we've all been there, right? We've all been in the toilet at work. And you sit there, and then the light goes off, and you bugger off if you're nowhere near the light switch. I kind of do this weird stuff.
For the purposes of this, I have actually turned on by hand the light at the wall.
Can you override it?
Okay. There you go.
Specifically for that reason. So this is how privileged a podcast this is. I've actually turned the light on by hand for the first time in about 2 years.
It's strenuous.
Does the cost of buying all the sensors outweigh the cost of that you save?
Yeah, after 97 years.
It does for about the first 3 years, but I've had this set up for about 6 or 7 years.
Right,
now, so
okay.
It's starting to get over that threshold. And the one good thing about energy costs going up is I can more justify the outlay that I've spent on all the smart home gear. The savings are that much bigger now.
Yeah,
do you save it or do you spend it on camera equipment? Because I always guarantee you spend it on camera.
Well, exactly. It depends. I save on buying any more smart home gear and paying it for energy. And yes, it absolutely goes onto camera gear, which is why I bought a Fuji X20 this last
week. We were talking last night on Instagram, weren't we?
Yeah.
I saw that you bought that. I love those little old Fujis.
Well, the big thing for me was, as somebody who started out doing street photography, I started doing it on a Canon 200D, so a little crop sensor to DSLR. And it was really, really light. And actually, when I very first started out, I think I had maybe the kit lens and a nifty 50. So it was a really light setup, so I could just get out of the house, didn't need to carry a bag with me, literally put the spare lens in my pocket, just have a wander around Manchester, capturing moments, and it was great. And I was unencumbered by all of the paraphernalia that you get when you've been into photography for a little bit longer. And what's happened is my kit's just got gradually heavier over time. And I'll start taking a bag out with me, and I'll have 3 spare lenses in my camera bag, and I am calling them spare lenses because they never end up going on the camera. I'll just shoot with what I've got. When I go out, and part of it for me was I'd stop going out and doing what I'd consider true street photography, just getting candid moments, because I was just having to take this bag out with me all the time. And it was a psychological thing of, it's just a little bit more of an arse ache going out and doing it than it should be. So what I could have done is had the willpower to only take one lens and one camera body out, but instead I thought, let's spend some money and buy another camera. And I bought the X20, and part of the rationale for it really is that with Fuji knocking out great JPEGs and the film simulations you can put on it, part of it was, I don't need to do any post-processing. I can, if I like the image, I can get it posted if I want. And if I don't, it's not the end of the world, because I've not kind of been walking around with, 3 however many kilos on my back all day, and I feel obliged to post. And it's been pretty good for that. So I had a walk with my camera club on Saturday, and it was nice just to go with a really, really small camera. It's a fixed lens, because
is it?
The other part of me, so it's not a fixed focal length, but it's a fixed lens. And part of that was, if I knew that it was an interchangeable lens, I know I'd end up buying lenses at some point, and I'd be back in that cycle. Right. So I've literally just got I think it's something like, I don't know, say 18 mil to 112 mil or something like that.
Oh, it's quite wide, right? Quite a broad. Quite vast. Oh, I assumed because it's an X20, I assume it took all the X lenses and stuff like that. But no, it's fixed. Interesting.
Yeah, so I specifically, so a bunch of my photography friends were saying, "Oh, these are fantastic cameras, and the lenses are quite cheap." And I'm like, "No, I literally need to be able to not buy lenses for it."
Yeah.
Because if I can, I will.
Yeah.
And the quality of the lens, the glass is really good on it. It's quite renowned. So I'd seen a YouTube video maybe 3-4 weeks ago, and it was somebody saying that the X10 was really, really good. So I was looking at X10s and X20s, and because there's been a few YouTube videos that have come out saying that the X10 is a classic, the cost of the X10 has gone above the X20,
even though it's older.
The later version. So I've ended up getting an X20 just because it was a little bit more economical, even though technically it's a better camera than the X10. So, but you know what it's like. You influencers pushing up the prices of cameras.
Me and Luke. That's why Ricoh GRs are so popular at the moment.
Exactly. That's why I couldn't afford one of those bad boys.
Yeah.
Where's that? I was looking for that camera. Oh, look, there it is. Right, so this is the new camera I got, and for exactly the same reason. And it's a Fuji, but it's the size of my head. But for exact same reason, it's a fixed lens. So I'm like, I know I can't buy any lenses for it, but I shot one roll on it, and I'm like, I wish I had an 85mm lens for it. So just need a whole new camera, really. But
it also depends on the work you're doing, right? It depends on the work you're doing. So, like, Gaz, well, in fact, before we get on to that, let's go back. Tell us a little bit about how you got into photography, how long you've been doing it.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I initially bought, a crop sensor DSLR, a Canon 200D, probably about 3.5 years ago. Okay. And going back to the smart home nerd stuff, I originally bought it actually for video. I was going to start a smart home YouTube channel, and actually there is somewhere in the depths of YouTube, there is a 30-second YouTube trailer for my channel.
That's going to be the intro to this podcast, FYI. Just
because it never become a channel.
Maybe we'll end. Yeah, in fact, you know what? Let's find it, Luke, and we'll put that at the end.
I'm looking for it.
We can have copyrights.
I have my own words
from you, mate.
Yeah.
But so I bought the camera for that actually, and it was intended to do video. I never really considered doing stills. And I went for a wander around the local reservoir, shot a little bit of landscape, and even to this day, it's something I cannot shoot, but it got me out of the house, and I shot some stills, and it was actually quite a nice, chill thing to do. I was having a bit of a crap time of it, mental health wise, at that point in time. So it was nice to get out and about and walk. But then I didn't really pick the camera up again for a little while then. And then my partner at the time and my daughter ended up going to a One Direction gig in Manchester. And I'd been watching some YouTube stuff of people who'd done some street shooting and kind of how it's the lowest entry point, if you like. It's the easiest entry point for shooting because you don't need to be technically good necessarily to get good and interesting street images. And I thought that'll fit me perfectly because I'm not technically good. And I wandered around Manchester for like 2-3 hours whilst this gig was on.
Right.
That sounds like my dream. Like literally.
Yeah.
To be fair, I bought my missus some gig tickets for her birthday a couple of months ago. It's in Birmingham, and in a couple of I don't know, whenever it is. And I bought 2 tickets, and I was like, no offense, but please take someone else. I've got no interest in this man. But I'll happily drive you.
I'll drive you there.
I'll walk around Birmingham for 4 hours while you're there, no problem.
And that was it. And I did the classic Manchester street photography thing of I'll go to the Northern Quarter because there's graffiti and cool looking people. And you can't really go wrong in the Northern Quarter. If you can't get a decent street shot, even if it's your first time, if you can't get a decent street shot in the Northern Quarter, you need to jack it in before you start. So I did that, and I got some shots I was pretty happy with, and I just posted some on Instagram, and it was like, all right, actually, I quite enjoy doing this, and I've always been somebody who's kind of had an interest in storytelling. Even though I've never been a writer, I've never been any of those things. But I was a massive movie buff as a teenager, and I was all about the way that narrative was built. And I at one point I wanted to be a movie editor because it was kind of, I loved the way that you could edit things in different ways to tell a different story, no matter what was shot to some degree. And I really liked the thought of doing that and actually shooting stills and realizing that it's even more of a challenge in one frame, in 1/250th of a second, wherever it might be, to actually try and tell a story. And I just completely fell head over heels in love with that. And then I kind of over the rest of that year, then I didn't really put the camera down. Because I worked in central Manchester at that point in time, I would literally take my work bag was my camera bag. So I'd take it to work every day. And on my lunch break, I'd have a little wander out around Manchester for half an hour, just capturing little moments. And I just completely fell head over heels in love with it. And that's what I did for a long, long time. I never considered doing anything commercially. Portraits weren't a thing for me because I was kind of that pretentious git of I want to capture something candid. Unless it's candid, if I'm directing the moment, then I'm become part of the story, and I don't want to be part of the story.
It's weird though, isn't it? Because when you think of like, I did the same as you, right? Like when I got in, like, what should I say, back into photography, I was doing the same as you. For me, it was like, again, a bit of a mental health thing. I was going out every lunch, and I was aiming to try and take one photo that I liked. If I still liked it the next day, fine. But if I went out and shot 20 photos on my lunch, and I liked one of them, I'd think of that as a successful day, right? And then at the start of that, for the first couple of months of me doing that, I was like, right, I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn from my photos. I'm going to learn from yesterday's one. I hope that tomorrow I don't like yesterday's one. Do you know what I mean? Like, because I want to get better as a photographer. Yeah. Then you start to get better as a photographer. And I'm not saying I'm a great photographer, but I started to learn the camera. I started to learn about how you can use a camera in different ways. Then I turned into a cocky fucker, right? So now I'm like, yeah, street photography, completed it, mate. Do you know what I mean? Like, I had that attitude for a very short amount of time. And then I realized quickly there's no kind of limit to it, right? You learn every day. I accepted that I wanted to learn every day. Now I look back at those photos and I don't even want to see them. Do you know what I mean? But I'm so glad that I did that. Like, and if I could tell anyone to go out and do the same, it's like everyone's going to think they're a good photographer when they start photography because you're probably better than your mates that don't do it, right?
Yeah. Or you're better than you think you're gonna be.
Yeah, like, you're better than you think.
Oh, I can take a nice picture. Cool.
And everyone gets impulsive, right? Especially with a digital camera, right? Like, you take a photo and you're like, "That's the best photo I've ever taken." Look at it the next day, like, what?
And it's like that quadrant thing, isn't it? It's kind of consciously incompetent, and it's that sort of thing is that unconsciously incompetent. You think you're fantastic, and
Yeah.
anything but. But I think for me, a question I guess I've got of both of you guys is,
we're meant to be questioning you, mate.
Well, see, I like to switch it around. So my street account, my @Tykes account, is I use it as a digital scrapbook. So people will say to me, in the past at least, when I used to regularly post on that feed would be really good if you just let me curate it for you. And I was like, no, I need it to be a point in time for me that I could see that at that point in time, that's the way I shot, that's the way I edited, that's the way I chose to post. And what you'll see is over time, I got better at shooting for the Instacrop. And then I started displaying my images in a different way. And the way that it sits now is that it looks as though it's hanging in a picture frame, which is actually, I think, was quite eye-catching for some people, because it kind of tied together into a bit of more of a cohesive whole, the sort of work that I was doing. But at the same time, it's in portrait orientation. And sometimes I feel
you're limited,
kind of boxed in by that. But that's not kind of why I've stopped shooting street. My biggest thing was, and I'd be interested what you guys think about this, is that there was a photography meet up in Manchester, and it was to do stranger portraits, which is kind of what I'll come onto in a little bit. That I went along on it because I just thought, well, I don't really know that many people in Manchester who shoot the sort of stuff that I shoot. And there's 3 or 4 people on here who I've spoken to on Insta but never met in real life. And if we've got this meetup, it's a way to just ease you into having a conversation with them.
Oh, massively, yeah.
And we literally just walked into the Northern Quarter again and stuck up a background with masking tape against a pub wall just off Stevenson Square, which is the big part of the Northern Quarter where everybody wanders in and out and gets shit-faced. And basically we said, right, okay, anybody who walks past, ask them if they want a portrait doing. And I was super, super unconfident about asking any of them. And luckily, a friend of mine, Phil, who it was the first time I'd met him, but he's become a really, really good friend. Phil actually was really, really good at getting people to come in and you're taking portraits. And that's how the stranger portrait thing started to happen. And actually, I went from being pretentious in the way of saying, no, it needs to be candid for it to be real, and I don't want to be part of telling the story, to it became very addictive, just trying to talk somebody in that 30 seconds, 60 seconds that you had to say to them, right, okay, I want to take your portrait. This is why I think you've got a great look. You've got a cool way about you. You've got tattoos, you've got cool hair, you look interesting, you exude confidence, whatever it was. And it became that thing of establishing that rapport in that 30 to 60 seconds was kind of the creative juice that I was looking for at that point in time, because I'd started to kind of become, I felt, quite formulaic in the way that I was just shooting traditional street photography. So I did these portraits and it was fantastic. I was like, no, I really, really love this. And then the problem I've got now is that when I go out to shoot traditional street, I end up shooting a shitload of stranger portraits and just literally going up to people and talking, because I just love the challenge of doing that.
Yeah.
So I've not posted much on my street account for ages, because every time I go out with the intent of shooting something that I may post on there, I end up coming back with like 10 stranger portraits that end up going on the Tykes portraits feed. And it's a nice problem to have, because it means I'm getting images that I really, really like.
Yeah.
But it just means it's a little bit unbalanced in terms of frequency of posting. But you shoot what you enjoy. I'm a big believer in shoot what you enjoy, and whatever 100%. That might be at a different point in time.
And that's it. We all go through stages, right? Like, music, right? Like Luke's way more into music than me, right? But we're quite diverse in what we listen to. Probably one of the reasons we get on in a lot of ways. But we both have different tastes. But at the same time, we're both very open to listening to new things or different genres, whatever it might be. I might wake up tomorrow and be into heavy metal, yeah? And then at the same time, at the weekend, I'm listening to some pianist play that I just think is a beautiful sound. Do you know what I mean? And I'm open to that. Like, I'm open to listening to anything. I will never say no to anything. Same with photography, right? Like, I was all like, when I started, like, me and Luke kind of were meeting up and we were going out and doing street photography because that's what we could do. That was easy. It was like, let's meet up in town, let's take a walk and take some photos. But then as you get more into the art form of photography, I feel like it's about experimenting with things that you've seen that have influenced you. Yeah. And I'm not saying I'm the best at it, but I'm like you. I've got into portraits recently. And for me, it's not about taking a portrait. It's about stopping and having a chat with someone for 20 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 seconds, whatever it might be. And Luke's like, me and Luke went to Brighton a couple of weeks ago. I stopped and spoke to a couple on the beach just because they were trying to take this weird selfie. So I was like, oh, opportunity to practice.
Do a better job.
Yeah. Hopefully. But, I was like, well, I'm going to go and ask them to take a portrait. If they say no, they say no, right? But if they say yeah, I've got an opportunity to learn how to take portraits. If that photo comes out wicked, I'm going to learn from it no matter what. And I think Luke, you'll admit this as well. With like the Instagram thing, I feel like, especially in its current state, and there's other apps like, we're big fans of various other platforms that we use, like Granary and we're both trying Vero at the moment. Well, I've created a profile. That's
me too. I've created. I haven't done anything with it.
Are you doing it as well as you doing Twitter?
Twitter just I do not understand it. Like, I must have said to Luke, let's get on Twitter. I'll probably say it to him every couple of months, and I download it. And then it just doesn't go anywhere. Anyway, less about that. But with Instagram, like I don't go on my own profile too much because I try and use Instagram the way I used to use Instagram, right? I go on there to see other people's work that I like. Now, fortunately enough, I know the algorithm is really messed up. But on the front profile, which is what I spend 99% of the time on when I'm on Instagram, because I don't watch reels on front, it doesn't suggest reels to me. Yeah. So we get shown photos. Now, fair enough, there's way too many photos from people that we don't follow. Yeah. But again, that's kind of one of the reasons behind front, is to find new people. Like, you sent us a message 6 months ago saying, I hate you. There's so many people that I'm now following. I didn't know. Right? But that's kind of the point. Like, and now I've stopped caring about mine, and it becomes a journal. Yeah. Yes. Now, I might post that journal every day for a year. I might post that journal one time a year. That's my journal. Yeah. I am going to be the one that looks back at my journal and go, and I'm going to be my critic. I'm going to be my biggest critic or fan. And I'm okay. I can look back and go, I really like that. Or I wish I did this. I wish I did that. But really, am I going to make a living off posting photos and making my Instagram look pretty? No, I've got no desire to do that. Yeah. So it's finding this balance, isn't it? But at the same time, it's a great platform to share and connect. I mean, if they do it right.
My big thing about Insta is that I know so many people who shoot for Insta. And the difficulty then is you're only ever one unengaged post away from thinking that you're absolutely useless. And that is so toxic. It is absolutely not the way it should be. And it's that thing of, I think a lot of photographers kind of in the last few decades would have killed for a platform like Instagram to get their images seen. But there seems to be some level of it, and I'm sure I'll have some people who take umbrage with this. There seems to be this thing of Instagram owes you reach. It owes you putting your images in front of people's eyes. And actually, I understand that it's a big part of people's business. I truly, truly do. And I'm very lucky to be in a situation where I've got a very secure NHS career that I've been in 20 plus years. I don't need to shoot commercially. I take commercial jobs on that I want to shoot, but it's pocket money. And I don't mean that sound arrogant, because I've worked very hard in my day job.
That's off screen like that.
That's why I could just go and buy a webcam. But I've put 20 years into building that career, and I'm lucky to be in a position whereby, whilst cost of living is going up, it's great to have a diversified income if I want it in terms of the photography. But equally, if I'm taking on a lot of commercial work and it's kind of hitting the creativity and the joy that I took from photography and still is important for my mental health regime, that's the tipping point for me. If it gets to the point where I cannot feel like I can go out and enjoy just taking some random photos, then that's the time that I know that I've been taking too many paying jobs on, and I need to.
Yeah, and I think that's it's okay to take a break as well. Like, I'm going through it now. I'm not shooting as much as I did. Like, to be fair, I've just started picking the camera back up and having it with me kind of 24/7. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm kind of doing at the moment. That's why I'm walking around with a Ricoh. I've got a Ricoh, a little Olympus XA film camera. They're my kind of go-to at the moment. I even had the conversation with Luke the other day of selling my SLR because I don't use it enough, right? So like, but it's okay to go through stages like that. I think Kyle McDougall just put out a post saying, sorry, he's been quiet for 3 months. He needed to take a break. Loads of people are doing it. Like, and it's okay. Like you need time to work on yourself, right? And that's like mentally, photography wise, whatever you're into. Like, it's the same with anything you do in life. Like sometimes you just need to take a break to appreciate how much you love it. Do you know what I mean?
And my thing is, I've been having a few conversations with people lately, and the thing is that I think taking a break from shooting and taking a break from posting can be completely disconnected from each other. So the time that I took a break from posting for 5-6 weeks was because I didn't feel like telling a story in a post, but I shot probably 3 or 4 different shoots that I was really, really happy with. I just didn't feel like sharing them. And I know that I've got those in my pocket as and when I feel like posting again. So after a 5-week break, I went to another photo meetup again in Manchester, a place called Submerged Spaces. So it's a recently launched studio. And I'd shot studio twice, and I'm subdued, quite lively, and as you can tell, I'm quite talkative, and I like to have a dynamic energy on any set that I'm shooting on. But it's usually been locations, and the twice that I've shot studio when it's just me shooting or me and a friend shooting with a model, I find filling that space up in a creative, dynamic way, I find that super, super draining. And I really respect people who can shoot studio because it's just a different feeling, or at least for me, it's a different feeling. And I actually quite like the dynamism of being out on the street or on a practical location and something happening just over there, and you go, oh, that would be great. And I feed off that, and I'm quite impulsive and instinctive in that way. And whilst I've always got a concept of what I want to shoot, and I'll always discuss it very in great detail with anybody who I'm going to shoot with, I'm certainly open to something happening on the day that makes us improvise, and quite often that those are the best shots. But in a studio, you haven't got those outside influences, and it just creatively doesn't juice me up in the same way. But the Submerged Spaces, it was like speed dating for photographers. And you were literally, you'd go in, you'd pay, I say it was £15. Models would pay to be there, photographers would pay to be there. And you just got paired off with a model, and they go, right, okay, you've got like 15, 20 minutes to get some shots with them. And there were a bunch of different sets, and the lighting was already set up. And actually, for somebody who's not massively confident with studio lighting, having them set up, the people who set it up knew what they were doing, and actually you could just, as a photographer, walk in and go, right, okay, I'm going to work around the space that's there.
Yeah.
And the challenge of doing that, really, the kind of the creative energy that had just drained away from me for the past few weeks before that just came flooding back. And I got probably the best, certainly the best male model shots I've ever got from that event, and the feedback I've got has been phenomenal. And a few different people have contacted me and said, "Look, we'd like to shoot with you." The problem is they want to shoot studio with me because they've seen these images and go, "They're really good," not realizing that I wasn't necessarily the one who set the lighting up and set the setup. And I'm kind of going, well, let's.
If someone's interested in your work, be honest. Do you know what I mean? Say, look, these photos I will give you a better result if I do them in the environment that I think. Here's what I work with. Now, I'm not saying stop using the studio. Go back and practice it. You know, if it's gonna make you a bit of money, and that's the avenue that you want to go down, fucking practice it. Do you know what I mean? Get good at it. Like, make it a career. Why not? Or, you know, even if it's just as a hobbyist, learn it. If you're interested in it, learn it. Then say you don't like it. Don't say you don't like it before you try it, right?
No.
But at the same time, if someone's coming to you saying, "Oh, do you want to take some photos?" Yeah, let's go. Let's go. There's a few spots around Manchester or wherever you live. Let's go shoot them. Do you know what I mean? And if they say no, we need studio shots. Okay, cool. Well, funny you say that. I know Mr. or Mrs. Smith down the road. Do you know what I mean? And then you'll soon get it bounced back. Me and Luke were doing a shoot the other day, like through our work, or, you know, our job sort of thing. We were like, you were videoing whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
We're making a Christmas video. We'll leave it as that. We're making a Christmas video for a company's upcoming Christmas video.
Yeah.
There's a part of that. It's just like, it's mundane, right? You're there to do a job, like.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean you can't make the most of it and learn from it.
No, exactly that.
Yeah.
And I think a bunch of the stuff that I've done commercially, I shoot a lot of kind of market events, and some people would be like, that must be stillifyingly boring. It's like, no, because actually what it means is, yeah, I do some product shots, but I'm getting paid to do stranger portraits. In essence, the thing that gets people to hire me is capturing the connection between the traders and the punters, and then getting those shots of those different sort of customers. And that's why I keep getting invited back to kind of do these jobs, because that isn't something that everybody does when they shoot commercially. So I'm not saying it's going to make me phenomenally wealthy or anything like that, but it's not about that. Ultimately, if I'm getting paid to do something like stranger portraits, a lot of people would never ever get the opportunity to do that, and that's why I don't price them ridiculously high, because actually it feels a little bit as though if I charge too high, then I'm going, you paid me to do something I'll utterly adore.
Yeah. So you don't want to miss out by people going, "Oh, it's a bit expensive, we'll look elsewhere."
Yeah.
When you said market events, I was like, do you literally mean like a market and a thing? But yeah, it is that, literally on a market stall.
Yeah, so the reason I tagged the events on the end was the main company that I've worked for is literally that they have not pop-ups so much, but kind of on a monthly rotation, they have markets in different venues that aren't there all the time. So they feel like an event to the people who come along to them, because there might be a standard indoor or outdoor market in that particular town, but this kind of independent one rolls around every month or every 3 months. So they're more of an event than just shooting a straightforward static market, if you like. So there's, by its very nature, every stall there is a pop-up, and you know, and that's a different dynamic. And it's just interesting seeing how you get different types of punters in different places around the Northwest, even if it's only 10, 15 miles from each other. And some of the traders are the same at each market, and, you know, you've got to mix it up in terms of that, but it's a different clientele in each one, and I get to kind of explore that for myself. But actually, the guys who hire me absolutely love the stuff that I get for them, and I'm not gonna, I'm certainly not gonna price them out of taking me on to do those jobs, because it's one I thoroughly enjoy.
Sometimes you've got to remember as well, like if you are at a position where you're doing photography for someone else, whether it's paid or whatever, you've got to sometimes accept that they're probably going to be happy when you're not happy. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're your own biggest, like, you know, teacher and kind of critic, right? So like, you might go, "Oh God, the lighting's slightly off," or "I wish I did it at this time," or "I wish I would have put that lens on," or "I wish I would have shot black and white." Whatever the reason is, you're going to be your own biggest critic. But if you fulfilled a brief that you've been given, that's all you need to do, really. Do you know what I mean? And if you've fulfilled it, then they'll come back to you. Do you know what I mean? Unless you're a dick, then they're not. Why wouldn't they come back to you, right? But
that's the problem I have. They're like, "Great work, but you are a dick."
But you're a dick, so we're not.
You're a talented dick.
Yeah.
I've done loads of solo jobs. No, I'm joking. But I did want to talk a little bit about your work, because, as we've said, you're without a doubt the number one fan of front photography. If you are listening to this or watching this and you disagree, leave a comment, because we'll prove you wrong. Basically, we've got all the evidence to prove that Gaz is our number one fan. But I want to talk a bit about your work, because we really, like we said, we really appreciate the support you've given us. But we've been following you too, right? Like we've always said to everyone that we follow, this is why we always say use our hashtag. Yeah, use our hashtag front photography, because we want to see your work, and because of the strange algorithm that Instagram shows, it's not always possible, right? So the more people that use it, the more people we get to see. It's that simple. So we see your work, like we look through it, we look at it casually in our own time, right? And I feel like in the last kind of year or so where I've been following you, I can see that there's been a style developed through yourself, right? And you've gone from, like you'll say it yourself, right? Everyone's gone from this novice level, and when I started following you, you were a good photographer. I've got no problem admitting that. Whether you believe it or not is up to you, but you were a good photographer. But now you're a good photographer with your own kind of style. Now, fair enough, you're learning new things all the time and you're trying new things, but because you've got your own little style, I think that shows in your work. Would you agree with that? Would you say that's a fair comment? Or...
I mean, it's a tough one to take that on and not feel pretentious. But I guess what I would say is probably a year ago, I was shooting, portrait-wise, I was shooting a lot of street-style portraiture.
Yeah.
And a lot of that was about, let's see how wacky an angle I can pull off. And
experimenting.
Yeah, exactly. And I was using kind of tricks and hacks to make something look interesting, and that was largely, and that was great. It was, I learned a lot from it. It meant that I got my name out there in Manchester, and people were willing to shoot with me, and we were doing collabs, and that was absolutely great. And I wouldn't take those posts down, and I wouldn't have not shot those posts, but I felt as though I kind of fell into formula again. That's a big recurring theme with me. I felt like I fell into a formula of shooting similar style or employing similar hacks, and it just felt to me as though I was using a interesting location to make the portrait interesting. For me, a portrait should be interesting because of the subject, and the location can certainly help with that, and it could be tied in. But it ultimately, if the background is more interesting than the subject, then you've not chosen a good subject, or you've not worked well enough with the sub. I feels awful calling a model a subject, but you're not done a good enough job of connecting with them if you can't make them interesting in of themselves. And actually, the progression for me was to go, right, okay, I've got these street style shoots under my belt. And I feel the biggest thing was, I feel like I can go out in any situation, planned or unplanned, and get images that the people in them would go, they're some of the best shots I've ever had taken of me. And, I'm not saying that they were kind of vastly experienced models, but they were really pleased with them. And I was pleased with them. But that confidence to go, I feel as though I can shoot in any scenario and get decent shots, made me go, actually, let me put myself in a challenging situation. Let me put myself in a deliberately uncomfortable situation where I'm not 100% sure that I can knock this out of the park.
But you have to trust
it. Yeah, exactly. And that's the way that I live the life of my day job. I've always been somebody who's been quite opportunistic and quite entrepreneurial, whilst getting paid a salary. But trust me, Jamie, working in the NHS, I don't think anybody is going to be making any of that if you come up with a good idea.
Mate, you work for the NHS, you deserve every penny, mate.
No, it's a security that most creative people can't speak to, and I definitely recognise that. And what I would say is part of my progression is knowing that I'm not having to shoot stuff has allowed me to choose the things that have helped me develop as a photographer. Yeah. So do I feel as though I'm starting to get kind of, I think somebody referred to it as a visual signature in the past. And I think I do feel I'm starting to get a bit of a visual signature in the work that I do. And
the time you choose to put into it as well, right? So like, I heard a really good quote. I can't remember who said it. It was on a podcast, and someone said, I'm sick of hearing the excuses of I've got no time. everyone has the same amount of time. It's how you choose to spend it. Now, fair enough. We've got responsibilities and stuff, but we do all have the same time. We can spend it however we want. We've made choices that we sometimes have to spend time doing other things.
I think
you should make time for yourself.
I think you've quoted somebody called Molly May there, and she got absolutely ripped to pieces for saying it because she's a
Am I being stupid?
No, I think you're. That was. Yeah, she was on like Love Island or whatever. She said, we all have the same 24 hours."
That is in my top 3 shows, but I can't say I know
no, but
shit.
she was referring to people who saying like, "Oh, nobody wants to go and get a job. Everybody's lazy and stuff like that." Whereas I think the person, I can't remember. I know what you were talking about, Jamie, but it was essentially. It was like, when you sit down in the evening and you stick some random thing on TV and you sit and watch it for a couple of hours and you go to bed, that's when you should go out shooting. Like,
I'm pretty sure it was probably Sean Tucker.
It does sound like a Sean Tucker.
It feels like a Sean Tucker-esque thing. I was joking.
Everything he says is a bloody quote anyway, isn't it?
Well, exactly. I was joking with a couple of my friends before coming on today, saying if I really struggle to say anything profound, I've actually got the Meaning in the Making book kind of in the living room, and I said if needs be, I'll just read out that. And they were saying, but it doesn't carry the same weight unless it's Sean who's actually saying it. And I said, so if I'm talking about the meaning in the making, does it not sound as profound as it Sean's saying it? So I think I've shied away from thinking that might be a good idea.
Yeah. The book, though, it is a great book, isn't it? Like, I want to read it again, but I'm almost like, it's so profound and it is quite weighty, but I was going to say it's quite weighty, but in a light way. Like, it's easy to read, but it really makes you think, and you almost read a bit of it and go, oh my God, I need to stop and think about that. So I've held off reading it again just because I'm like, I don't know if I'm ready for it again yet, but it's so good.
You can say the same about his YouTube content, I would say, is that if you are consuming YouTube photography content passively, you're probably not going to do justice to Sean Tucker's content, because actually it's you stop in your tracks and you actually sit and you absorb it when it's a video that he puts out. And I think if you are just if you've got it on autoplay and you're jumping from different photographer to different photographer that the algorithm decides that you want to watch, you're probably not going to get as much out of his content as is really there. And I think that's the same with the book, isn't it? You don't need to be, but I think to get the best out of it, you want to be in that headspace where you're going, I want to actually think about my creativity. I want to actually look at it and understand what switches my lights on or what demotivates me. And I think that is something that Sean Tucker does better than anybody else. You've had Brian Burks on the podcast. And
these videos are like, I'm not joking, I turn the lights off, I watch it like it's a cinema. Because I feel like the monologue that he uses, the footage that he shoots, even though it's quite raw at times, like, he has a lot of natural sounds and stuff like that, I feel like he's a genius because it's so unique, right? Like, maybe it's not, but I don't know anyone else who makes a video like him and produces the photos that he does, right?
And what I like about him is his images are phenomenal, and I love an environmental portrait. I really, really do. And he's absolutely made me want to shoot large format. Absolutely has, single-handedly. But I love that actually he's so raw when he's talking about things. And, a month down the line from a video that he's done where he said something, he'll go back and go, you know what, I sounded a bit of a dick on that video, but I accept that I was in a bad space, and actually I've become part of maybe saying something toxic when I'm talking about toxicity in the creatives. And he's just so raw, and I absolutely adore that about him. He's, if there was none of that and he just put out the images he did, I'd still think he was a genius. But he's just got that. He just feels so genuine
I think that's what it is. It's something you watch and you go, God, I wish I could do that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's other content creators out there, or photographers, or whatever you want to call them. Like Madison Beach, right? She's one of the front ambassadors. That was because I'd been following her for a number of years, and I was just like, yeah, she's got it right. Like, she's raw. She talks about everything from her opinion, her aspect. She's not trying to be a pro in terms of like what she knows. It's about her journey. There's a photographer that follows us on front. I'm sure he's probably listened to this. His name's Andrew McLean, I think it is. He's got a YouTube channel, yeah. And he I love his videos. They're only like 5-6 minutes long, normally, something like that. And it's normally him talking for 5 minutes, and then he just shows his photos. But I like the rawness of that. I like watching it because I learn something from it. Or I can I'm open to seeing it from another point of view. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's what photography is about in a lot of ways. Like, I see loads of people's work, but obviously, like me and Luke, we're closer because we're working on something together. Yeah, so we show each other's photos. We kind of don't post anymore because we show each other photos, right? Almost like a seal of approval, but it's not. But sometimes I'll see a photo and I'm like, God, that looks like one of Luke's, and it is. Do you know what I mean? But the amount of times I've nearly shared one of Luke's photos to our Sunday Love post. And obviously I don't, because I'm like, God, that would be pretentious, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I wake up on a Sunday and I'm looking through, and I don't really try and pick my favourites necessarily. I just try and pick 10 photos that I'm drawn to for whatever reason on that Sunday morning, or if sometimes I screenshot them on at like 2:00 on a Saturday morning, right? Like, or technically it's Sunday morning, but I try and do it on a Sunday. And sometimes I sit there and I look for it and I'm like, that's a cool photo. It's nothing to do with my personal kind of photography journey. Yeah, like otherwise I'd just post portraits or I'd just post street photography. I try and be diverse. I'm like, that's a really good
something
photo.
that
I might be wrong.
Tracks.
But I'm not a professional photographer, but I can't help what I'm drawn to. Do you know what I mean?
Well, and this is it. 99% of people who are going to view anybody's images aren't professional photographers. Either. So, and I think in terms of it being a small world, so actually, Andrew, I only know Sophia and know about Sophia Carey's work, another one of your ambassadors, through Andrew. So I started watching. So I think I searched something like Manchester photography on YouTube, and it was actually one of Andrew's videos.
Oh, nice.
That I started watching, and then he did kind of a collab video with Sophia, and I think a female photographer called Megan Healy, who unfortunately has given up the photography game now, but super talented, and is from Manchester, who's quite well known for street style shooting. And I have to be honest, a bunch of those crazy angle shots that I shot early on were very, very heavily influenced by his work. Phenomenal photographer. But seeing all them on that, and it was like, what they were, the couple of the videos that they were doing was one model, 4 photographers. It was very, very much that was quite popular at the time. And a lot of big photography content creators were doing that style. So it's like, okay, well, let's do this. But just seeing how they were improvising on the fly, shooting in practical locations around Manchester, kind of gave me the confidence to go out and give it a go. So you're talking about Andrew, and it's funny that he was a big part of actually having me go out and starting to do some of that style of shooting. And
that's cool. I didn't realise you kind of knew him or knew of him, sort of thing.
Yeah, no, he's somebody who's given a lot of advice. I've been talking on and off to Andrew for probably 2 years, and then I watch all of his content. I watch Sophia's content an awful lot. I've gone on on a photo walk with Sophia, and I've.
Her mind works differently. I met her a couple of months back. She just happened to be doing some work in our town, and the way she talks about stuff, like she's so like mature with how not for her age. I don't mean it like potential. I don't mean it like that. I mean the way she looks at things is so mature. Like that. She understands how things work quicker than your average person.
Yeah. She feels like she's also more experienced than she should be.
Yeah. Exactly.
How long she's been doing it.
Yeah, but she's also so creative, and so her creative side is like, I've got all these ideas of what I want to do, and then her brain is like, okay, well, let's make that work together.
That's how we do it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It comes across like it's simple, but really she busts her balls. Like she works so hard. Do you know what I mean? Like she doesn't get enough credit for what she does. But she's great, do you know what I mean?
Anybody who gets invited or invited back to do Skillshare content tells you that they know what they're talking about. You know, you can put a YouTube video out and it hit the zeitgeist at that point in time and it do well. And then you've not got anything to follow it up with. But having met Sophia a couple of times, I'm not going to pretend I'm a great friend of hers or anything, but I've seen her work at
she didn't like you,
I
she said she didn't like you.
Yeah, that's all right. That's why you can tell her I've met her more than once. Most people like.
She'll be listening to this at some point. I'm sure she'll be sitting on a train listening to this, going, "Oh, them guys."
Yeah, why is it? Why are they riding my coattails? But the thing about Sophia is, like you say, and I think Luke said, it feels as though she's very, very, very switched on in a way that you might think, oh, she that's more experience than she, you know, she speaks beyond the experience that she's got. But actually, having spoken to her, she's been shooting since she
works hard.
17.
Going back to like putting the camera down, she'll tell you like she works really hard because she's got a vision, she's got a goal, and she's doing it. She's working towards that. She'll hit that goal. She'll create a new goal, and she'll hit that one as well.
Yeah,
how she works. But at the same time, if something gets too stressful for her, she'll put the camera down. Like she'll tell you to like calm down, and that's what I'm saying. Like her brain just is like.
I sometimes go, look, and this probably makes it worse. I'll say to her, look, you are unbelievably mature for your age. No matter how much of a pillock that makes me sound and how much it feels like I'm mansplaining, there's no getting around it. You have got such a weight of intellect, but kind of emotional intelligence that feels far beyond your years. It's the emotional intelligence and then switching that into just being very business savvy. And I don't know if you've seen the work edition content that she puts out on her.
Like about her taxes and whatever.
Yeah. And that sort of stuff, there's not many people doing it. And she can do that
self-taught
stuff
as well, right? Let's give her credit.
Exactly.
Doing her own experiences that she's got to the level where she's at. I'm not saying she didn't like she went to uni, I know that kind of stuff, but like she was like, yeah, I'm going to be a photographer, and then she's a photographer.
Yeah, and a big part of any success that I've had commercially has been I have fully listened and absorbed to the stuff that she's been saying, and she's been really, really good. If I DM her, she absolutely will kind of give me the time of day to actually listen to what I'm asking and give.
She never replies to us anymore.
Fantastic. She's too busy replying to me. That's why.
Going back to like you learning like the art of photography somewhat, yeah. It sounds like you're going out there and putting yourself in the positions to be able to learn and also to be able to create, right? Like we all find it hard to give ourselves credit, right? We all find we've said this about front as well. Like we don't want people to undervalue their work. That's why there's a minimum price when we launch. That's why there'll be a minimum price to allow photographers or artists alike to make money for their work. Do you know what I mean? But it sounds like you've been putting yourselves in those kind of positions to learn, yeah. And yeah, fair enough. You can look back at your work and go, oh, I'm happy with this, I'm happy with that, or you know, that could be better, I can learn from that. But I think it's important just to take those steps. And like if you listen to this or watching this and you're in photography and you want to get better, put yourself in a position that will allow you to do so. Yeah. Reach out to someone on Instagram, reach out to someone on a Facebook group, reach out to us. Do you know what I mean? Like we'll speak to you. But put yourself in those positions. Do you know what I mean? Meet up with friends, like just put yourself in that position.
You cannot get better unless you push yourself out of your comfort zone. And I'm not going to try and be massively profound with that in any sort of way, but it is that sort of thing of if you're comfortable shooting something. For me personally, I find I need a risk, I need an edge to what I'm doing to be able to bring the best out of me. It's what I've always done. In like I say, my day job is very secure in that it's in the NHS. Unless I do something phenomenally bad, I am not about to get sacked. But the way that I carry myself in terms of, I do clinical engagement in my day job, and if I'm in a conversation with somebody about something that's of interest to them, even if it's not something that's on the work program that I've got in front of me, if it's something that I feel I can and my department can bring value to, I will seize on that moment. And when I talked about entrepreneurial spirit before, it is, I've got an entrepreneurial spirit in the safest possible way, where it actually doesn't cost me to kind of put my ideas into. But I find that brings the best out of me, but it also creates connections and builds a network of people. And that's what I absolutely would say, is that me putting myself in these situations, the other creative people who I've got to meet just by being there and just by going, you know what, I'm going to go up and talk to them. What's the worst that can happen? They can tell me to do one. And that's absolutely fine.
Well, going back to like you said earlier, right, putting yourself into an uncomfortable position, it will go two ways. You'll mess up and learn from it.
Yeah.
Or you'll do well and you'll be like, yeah, I this is exactly why I put myself in this position, because I have to trust my ability, right?
Yeah.
And if you perform it, you realise that, yeah, you shouldn't doubt yourself so much because you've achieved it. And if it does go wrong, you're only going to learn from it. And, you know, we've heard a million photographers say it. You've got to go out and take photos. Go out and take a million bad photos. Maybe you'll get one good one. But you've got to go and take those photos before you can learn anything about yourself. You can't you can research. You could sit and watch YouTube or pay for bloody documentaries, whatever. You go on a photography course. You go to college for 3 years and pretty much you would have to take a photo, but you can learn. You could be an expert in the history of photography. I mean, you know how to take a good photo.
Yeah, it's like I look on Reddit quite often at like the photography and stuff on there, and I like seeing people's work on there. And I have found a couple of photographers who have gone and followed on Instagram because I've seen them on Reddit and whatever. But it's like the mad shit that people say on there. It's hilarious, but I just think you're not going and taking photos. You're coming on here and complaining that other people have gone and taken a picture and downvoting them because you don't like the position of the model's arm, or like, you know, people will say like, oh, you know, here's an image I took, and they're like, it would be better if that beam of light in the background was coming off at a slightly different angle. And you're like, yeah, but that's not what happened in like, what the fuck are you talking about? They'll say like, oh, how could I have edited this picture better? There's like a photo critique group, and people will say stuff that you're like, that's not critiquing a picture. That's saying you're talking about a scenario that didn't happen. That's like, that's not the photo was taken. So how are they supposed to edit it so the model was actually on the beach instead of, you know, on a fucking car park or whatever it was? Really, really bizarre. But it's just, yeah, it's people who are not going and taking pictures, and they're like frustrated.
And most people that are going out and taking those photos, they know that it's not going to be on the front cover of Rolling Stone. Do you know what I mean? They're taking them to learn the craft.
And they haven't got time to go and whinge at people online because they're actually out taking photos.
And I think that's always the thing, isn't it? You know, when people are trolling you, to some degree, you kind of, depends how much time you want to volunteer to them. So, you know, you could go and have a look at their work and go, you know what, you're a phenomenally talented photographer. I think I might be able to learn something from this critique. But if you look on somebody's feed and it's just an utter pile of steaming dung, you just go, well, I've already given you too much time by going and having a look at your work, and maybe that's part of the rationale of trolling in the first place. But you know, I'm lucky in that, you know, I've got an Instagram following that is great in terms of people are very engaged and often comment on.
You're engaged on Instagram, right? Like you put, but so answer this question then, because you're engaged on Instagram, but I believe, or maybe I choose to believe, we'll find out in a moment, that you're built that way as a person. You want to engage because you want to engage. You're not engaging or sending these comments to try and get a comment back. You're engaging because you're interested in that person's work. You're interested in that person's whatever it is, whatever they're saying. Or you're just a nice guy, which I firmly believe as well. Like you're willing to take that extra 10 seconds to go, I really like this photo. I really like this about it because of X, Y, Z, or just great job, whatever it might be. Yeah. And like people always say, I leave really engaging comments, which it's true, but sometimes you ain't got time to do that. Depends how you spend that time, obviously. But showing someone more than just a like, I would like. I try and do it with fun. It is hard. Like there is a balance. I would rather go on Instagram and see 10 photos that I can engage with. But normally I share, so I'll share something to our story. And they're photos that have captured me. Now I haven't got time to sit there and write an essay about everyone because I'm trying to share as much as possible, right? But that's the way we nod, yeah. That's the way we give a little social nod, like fucking good job, well done. Do you know what I mean? Like I've enjoyed this. But you engage with people, right? Not everyone does it like that. People do it to get it back. Or this is a really great photo. Come check my photos out. Do you know what I mean? Like,
I think if you've got anything about you as a human being, I'll use that term again. If you've got any emotional intelligence whatsoever, you can tell when somebody is engaging with you tactically and not in a genuine way. And if I ever, if it's a lovely tones and it's and that's all they ever say, then you kind of go, it feels like you've got a fast reply set up and you're just throwing the same sort of thing at my content. And thank you for coming along and commenting on it, but actually does it feel as though you've sat with that image? No, and that's fine, because social media is it's like Tinder for photography is ultimately what Instagram is. But I tend to make sure once I get to a point where I'm just scrolling endlessly through images, I step off Instagram, because it's like I feel like I'm scrolling past work that when I'm actually in that headspace, I get a lot from, and I'll comment on it because it's meant something to me. And much like Jamie says, you kind of post stuff in your story that have caught your eye, and it might be something that I would never shoot in a million years, but there's something about it that goes, wow, that I just love how they've done that. I don't necessarily know how they've done it. I don't even necessarily want to know how they've done it. I just that struck me in a way, and it's hit a chord with me for whatever reason.
Even if it's a negative way, sometimes it's good to see things you don't know what to explore. Do you know what I mean? Like,
and I think so. When I comment on people's work, it tends to be with some level of not over analyzing, but kind of an analysis of why I like that photo. Because to me, the comments that I get the most out of is stuff that I can learn from. So when people go, oh, I really like the way you've used the light in this scene, or the way that you've framed it, then you can start to go, if I'm being honest with myself, I didn't see that beam of light, or I didn't see.
I was just saying, if someone puts that in my comment, I'm going to be like, I worked on everything but the light. The light.
But I think it's important to be honest, and and people will do that, and they'll say stuff, and I'll go, complete happy accident, but I'm really glad that it works for the image. And actually, I saw it when I between me taking it and editing it and posting it, I absolutely didn't see that in the shooting, but I did see it in the edit, and that's fine. Or I've not seen it in the shooting, I've not seen it in the editing, I've put it up, and I love that other people see stuff in your images that you don't see, and that's a big part of why I actually enjoy sharing.
Yeah.
Oh, mate,
hang on, I've got a picture here. She printed it off.
Luke loves showing off.
Right.
Absolutely loves showing off.
Right. I quite liked this picture when I put it on Instagram, because I liked the way that the guy was like walking with this swagger, and I just put it up, and someone commented with an eggplant emoji or whatever. What's an eggplant? What do we call it here? Avocado, right? I don't know if you can see it. And I hadn't spotted that in the picture at all. Yeah. And I was like, oh yeah, shit, it just looks, it's really,
Well, I hope that's what they actually meant, Luke, and they weren't calling you a dick, which is what a lot of people go using eggplant emoji for.
Yeah, but then somebody said, I think someone else said, like, oh, was that on purpose? And I was like, fuck, I didn't even spot it.
Just now,
But it's perfectly like, and then so I printed it off. Right? But I was like, genuinely, I just thought I quite liked the kind of composition rather than the rather than that, and I wasn't going for that. But Is that sort of thing.
And that's why, exactly. I love when you share. There's nothing better for me than, I absolutely. So I often say to people, do I judge the success of my images by the feedback? And I honestly, no. It's nice to get nice comments, but I judge the success of my images on how closely I executed the vision that I had for that shot. If it's a plan,
that's quite interesting you say that, because I've been trying to work out how I judge my photos, and at the minute I'm trying to do this thing at the minute. It's like a secret challenge where I don't post photos because it's so easy to post photos. Right?
It's a very secret challenge.
Well, I'm sitting on a lot of photos that I look at probably once a week on average, that I've taken over the last, say, 6-7 months at the minute. And I haven't shared them because, to me, like, I'm trying to do me on my personal photography journey. I'm trying to make more like sets of photos, whether that be sets of 2, sets of 10, whatever it might be. Like, but I don't always like sometimes I'll take a series of photos, right? So like the 2 photos that I was really happy with, I took 2 photos of I've got them here actually. How convenient is this?
No.
So I took, there's a local skate park to me called Wildland Skate Park, and I wanted to go there and take some photos. Now I took this photo here, which is just like some of the boys hanging out, right? Yeah. And I took this photo, which is actually one of the old owners of the original Wildland Skate Park. I won't geek out, but the skate park closed like, I don't know, 15 years ago, and then they've opened up one. So to me, that goes as like a set. Do you know what I mean? But sometimes I'll do that with all the intentions. I took 2 photos of Wet Plate Willow. I actually took 3 photos of Wet Plate Pillow. Wet Plate Pillow.
Yeah.
But I didn't like them. I didn't like any of them. So luckily, I got the opportunity to shoot him again. I took 3 photos again because I wanted a series of 3 photos of him. It only worked out 2. So there's 2 photos that I had of him. That's okay. That's my vision. 2 photos that I was happy with. Other photos are all right, but to me, it didn't complete the set, right? But I'm trying to not look at photos, and I'm looking back on them. And if they stand the test of time, like if I'm excited by them now, as I was the day after I got them developed or uploaded onto my computer, whatever it might be, doesn't matter if it's digital or film, then that to me is like if I still like it 6 months later, or if I still like it a year later, it's a good photo to me. Like, it might not technically be the best photo, it might be a lot of things wrong with it, but if I still like it after sitting on it for some time, then I'm measuring that as a successful photo.
And that's exactly kind of part of what you were saying there about a project. So it's a challenge for you. It's not a thematic project in terms of I want to shoot these same sort of images. I want to shoot sets of images and series. And that's kind of where I've gone to go, right, okay, about, maybe 6-7 months ago, I think it is, I set up the tools of the trade.
I was going to ask about that. Yeah.
Because exactly what you're saying there, Jamie, it's that sort of thing of, I felt that I was okay at telling a story in a single frame, and I was doing some portrait stuff that tends to be more series. You can kind of tie it in, but that's because it's in the same location. And I kind of felt as though I was at a level technically and kind of being able to kind of craft a narrative that I thought, right, the Tools of the Trade project for me is very much about bringing light to a trade or a craft and the actual craftsmanship of what that person does, whether it's something that's
it's about the subject, right? Not the photo. Yeah.
So, and you say what you want about Jared Polin. A lot of people love him, a lot of people loathe him. But if you see some of the photo series that he's done, what a storyteller that guy is. You might, people might not want to go for a beer with him, but he's actually, his storytelling is phenomenal.
I don't know who that is. What did you say, Jared?
Fro knows photo. I shoot raw guy. You may have seen it. He's big afro. You will have seen him. He does a lot of gear reviews, but actually he's been shooting commercially for many years. Okay. Really talented guy.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
You have to respect his photography regardless that you like him as a person.
And the thing is, he's very opinionated. I happen to like him, but I understand why a lot of people maybe don't. But that's just his style. You know, it's a very New York sort of way of looking at the world. But you can't deny that the guy knows what he's talking about when it comes to storytelling. And actually, watching some of the critiques that he did of people's work is, I would never have the balls to send my work into him. But seeing how he critiqued other people's work, it was kind of right. Okay, I feel that I'm at the level where I could look at the same photos as he's looking at and go, I understand his feedback. Because I think if you understand his feedback about an image, then you're probably at a level to be able to make those decisions in the moment to capture them in a different way. So it was kind of right. I feel I'm at a level to start doing these Tools of the Trade project now. And I've just kind of gone and shot local to me a few different types of trade. So the first one was a traditional barbers. Second one was a black work tattoo artist. And then the third one was a stained glass window glazier. And each one I've done, I've learned more about what kind of story I can tell and kind of how to use the environment. And this is when I was talking about Brian Burke's work before. It's the I love the environmental element of the portrait sheet. It tells you, it's absolutely about the subject, but everything that's in that frame tells you something more about the subject as well.
Well, just to send it completely full circle to when we first started talking, might be a nice place to kind of start wrapping it up. But you said earlier that you didn't like looking back at your photos, and then because at the time that's how you shot it, that's how you edited it, that's how you tweaked it, whatever you might have thought, yeah, that was the final result. But with a project like that, like the Tools of the Trade thing, it doesn't matter if you do that once a week for 6 months and then stop it for 10 years. And then pick it back up, or then look back at it, because it's a long-term project. Yeah. Now, when you finish that, it's up to you. You might be happy with those handful of ones that you've done, right? But you might continue to do that, and one day you might put a book together, and then, or a zine, or whatever. You might print a few photos. You might put a blog out about it. You might do nothing with it. Yeah, it might just be for you to look over one day, and that's okay, right? But I always think that about some of my photos. I'm like, I'm always thinking about like the next thing that I can do with it, because it's not for social media. I'm like, this photo, maybe I wouldn't sell it on front. Maybe I wouldn't print it and hang it above my TV, or it might not even make the bathroom. But in a set, if it makes sense, if it tells a story, then yeah, maybe it goes in a collection together. Do you know what I mean?
And I think a really, really important thing is, I can't remember who it was, and I'm sure the quote is something like, you need to be able to kill your babies. Basically, basically, it's that thing of, there might be a single image that I think is one of the best images I've ever shot.
Yeah.
But if it's in a set and it doesn't serve the narrative, it's got to go. It's not got to be included. And I think you can tell that you're getting better at your craft if you're able to go, right, I can see the narrative I wanted to tell, and I could make that the banner image, and then make everything that comes after it tell the rest of the narrative, and this one just sits on its own. And I think being able to edit what you choose to post, I don't mean edit in terms of post-process, in order to actually go, I'm going to take the best image I've ever taken, I'm going to take it out of this set, because actually it isn't a start point narrative, and it doesn't serve the narrative.
Yeah.
And I think there's some shots that I've got that will probably never see the light of day. If I did do it as a zine, I might put it in as kind of extra bonus stuff that nobody's ever seen, potentially. But being able to go, no, I know the narrative I want to tell, it doesn't fit into it, and being able to keep it out, I feel to me as though that means that I've got an artistic intent and an integrity to the way I want to tell the story, that I can put my ego to one side and go, this might be the best shot that anybody's ever seen from me, but it doesn't serve the story. And I think that's what a long-term project, whenever I'm feeling creatively kind of bankrupt, I will go back to shooting that long-term project. And I've shot another three 3 sets of shoes, 4 tools of the trade. And at different points, I don't feel as though I've got the full range of story that I want. And I'm really happy with individual images again, but I don't feel as though it's worthy of the tools of the trade. And I will post them on my portrait account at some point, because if I didn't get it in one shoot, I don't want to go back and reshoot. I want to be quite...
this is the whole thing about social media, right? If you posted those photos in an hour's time, to Instagram, and the world can see them, like you said, why are you posting? You post them for the world to see them, or you post them for one day for you to look back at and go, I forgot about that. And I had this conversation with Luke not too long ago. Like, I've started posting to my personal Instagram account. I'm one of those annoying people that have got 25 Instagram accounts. Yeah. So I've got, like, I look after front predominantly, and then I've got my photography account and I've got a personal account. Yeah. Now, my personal account, I gave up on a long time ago. Like, I don't hashtag or anything like that, but I post to it. I post to it probably more now than I ever have.
Yeah.
Because I'm my biggest fan of my profile, and I post it for my reasons. Like, now it's not like a photography based profile, but I like sitting back and looking at that from time to time, maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 years, whatever it is. But I will look back at it and go, these are my memories. Or, do you know what I mean? And you can do the same with photography. Like, you post them and then you look back at yourself and you go, yeah, that's an incomplete project. Or, I actually really like these photos. That's going to inspire me to go and take more. Now, if other people get inspired and other people want to follow you on that journey, ace. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But you've got to do it for yourself, haven't you?
Absolutely. And that's it. And like I say, how well have I executed the story and the vision that I wanted to tell? And if it doesn't meet muster for me,
why would it muster for anyone else?
I won't post it for anybody else. And if I post it and I've told the story I wanted to tell and it gets 0 likes, 0 comments, it doesn't matter, because I've told the story I wanted to tell. And if the person who shot it and the person who's in the subject of the story are happy with them, then I genuinely, as arrogant as it sounds, I don't care if anybody else likes them or takes anything from them or not.
We're the same. So when we post something to front, we barely get any comments. But if you randomly came across the front Instagram, you kind of initially think business, because it's not a personal profile, right? So I follow businesses. I follow some skate companies that I like. Do I ever comment on them? No, unless it's like a video or something like that. Yeah. Why would I? It's a business. Like, I'm just like, yep, okay, I know that information now. Thank you. But hopefully someone will click through that bit of information and comment on the photo, the photographer that we're sharing of, or the information that we're sharing, do you know what I mean? Or subscribe to whatever we're telling them to subscribe to, or do you know what I mean? Whatever it might be.
That's what I really, one of the many things I really like about Front is that when you post stuff, you'll, generally speaking, send a collaborator invite.
That's just our habit. But again, we never care if someone collaborates or not. We only do it out of habit now. Yeah, but we want you to collaborate. Yeah,
but and this is my thing is, so, there's lots of, I think they're called aggregator accounts out there. I think there's one called Ambient Nights. And at first I thought it was a photographer whose account that was, and I'd go on and I really like the stuff. And then when I started reading the captions, it was like, no, they're repost other people's work, and that's great because it brings a new audience to those people. But most people will like that aggregator feed and not follow through until to the actual.
Yeah, the thing I always find on them is they'll go through to that person's, the actual photographer's thing. They'll find the original post of that image that got shared and like it. So that person might have like 100 likes, 100 likes, 100 likes, 5,000.
Yeah.
But then their follower numbers didn't go up. Or I'm a real, I'm not a big fan of those types of accounts, because
we get the odd message as well saying, I love that you're a sharing account. I'm like, we're not a sharing account.
No, but most of the sharing accounts, they share famous people's work. And you're like,
people who don't need the leg up.
And it seems weird. So when Jamie does the Sunday thing, you don't really go for that sort of stuff, do you?
No, honestly, I just pick 10 photos that I'm drawn to. So there's been times where I've picked 2 of the same photo. Like, if you go back and look, sometimes there's 2 photographers, like 2 photos from the same photographer in that top 10.
Yeah, or they repeat week to week.
Yeah, or they repeat. But why now, don't get me wrong. I think we're on I don't know, 3,000 followers or whatever the hell it is. But not everyone uses the hashtag, right? We have a great community. We have a great amount of people that reach out to us and I speak to on a daily basis. but not everyone used that hashtag, which is fine. Like it's like we don't care. Like it's up to you what you want to do. But we only have the people that tag it. Like the whole point in that Sunday Love post is to reward the people that are supporting us or are using front photography for the right reasons to connect with other photographers or other like-minded people. But sometimes, I'll come across the same photo, like, same photographer, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to not feature them because
you did it before.
Did it last week. Why should I? But at the same time, I hope more people use it because I get, the photographer in me is like, I want to see more work from other people. Do you know what I mean? But it's a weird one. What does the future hold for you? What's the plan? What's the next project? Are you going to be an absolute baller, spend all your money on a Leica M6 and just start shooting that? Or are you going to start doing more portrait photography, more work, more commercial work? What is it?
I think where my mind is at right now, I want to do more and more stripped back portraiture. I want to get away from creative hacks, creative crutches of certain sort of formulas. And I keep going back to that. I hate when I feel as though I've become formulaic. And as my confidence grows, I feel as though I need less sort of bells and whistles to make an image interesting. So very much stripped back in terms of the kind of portraiture that I'm doing. I would love to be able to retrain my eye back into going out and shooting some street stuff, non-street portrait stuff, just to kind of feel as though I'm not a mono-focus sort of shooter, because portraits can become all-encompassing in that way sometimes for me. So I would like to start shooting some true, in my eyes, true street photography as well. But equally, I also want to go out and do some stranger portraits. But in terms of the key thing, I want to take my portraiture to the next level by stripping back and becoming more and more simplistic in the stuff that I shoot. And I think that's where I'm going to grow as a creative. That's the thing that I'm going to grow into. And actually, in terms of, whilst I have bought more gear recently, just this week, I actually feel as though I'm sort of stripping back the amount of creative tools I've got to drive me to be more creative. So I think, Luke, in the messages, I think I said the X20, the Fuji X20 has got all the flexibility and all the restrictions I want.
Yeah.
A camera. And that might sound kind of counterintuitive, but the fact it is a fixed lens is what I need to be able to go, this is the range that I've got to work with, but it has got a range of focal lengths as well. But I can't buy a faster lens, I can't buy a longer lens, I can't buy a wider lens. And I wanted to be able to do that. And that's why the camera club walk that went out on Saturday was, I could take the Canon, I could take the Mamiya, I could take anything that I've got a range of lenses for, but I want to challenge myself to go out and shoot with that. So I want to strip back the locations that I'm shooting in and concepts, and not shoot high concept stuff, because I want to be able to shoot simple but captivating at the same time. And that might be a big ask, but the same philosophy goes through into my gear as well now. I don't want to fall back on shooting everything at 1.4. I don't want to shoot, look back and say everything I've ever shot could have been shot anywhere in the world, because all you can see is the person that you've shot and not the background where they are. So I feel as though my creative sort of integrity might not be the right word, but I feel as though the way that I'm setting my gear up is in line with my creative sensibilities right now. Whereas in the past, I'd just buy gear because, I'd seen one photo that somebody shot with that particular camera or that particular lens, and if I buy it, it will mean I can shoot like that. And so many people fall into that trap. So if I can say one thing to anybody is, understand what you like to shoot, and then build your kit around that, because all the money that you waste on stuff that other people are shooting with and you feel like it will make you shoot like them, you could have spent that to go on a trip somewhere, to actually go and shoot somewhere interesting, to be in a different culture and be inspired by being in a different place. So, you know, it's advice that a lot of photographers give, but I absolutely would say that money spent in investing in yourself is much better than investing in gear, unless you're using that gear for the right reasons. So that's my attempt at a pearl of wisdom.